For this video essay, we will discuss aspects of the Grand Budapest Hotel and how the film manipulates objects within the frame through the use of visual cues itself. This will involve mise-en-scène, including colour, aspect ratio, composition, lighting, set design, costume, form and depth. To first establish and develop a relationship between Monsieur Gustave, the hotel concierge, Zero Mustafa, the lobby boy, who is also an immigrant, as well as Agatha, who is the professional village baker. Throughout the film, the use of lighting is highly effective in order to express and demonstrate the relationship between the three central characters. This began with making the scene much more dramatic, where the camera begins moving in on an older Zero Mustafa using a close-up and the lighting dims down. Warm striking lights turn on behind him near his head and cut back to the story on Gustave. This lighting and colour cue signifies his fondness for Monsieur Gustave and how he enjoys retelling his experiences and past with him, what they shared together in their lives. These lighting close-up techniques are also seen repeated once again when they are sitting at a table between the writer and the older Zero later in the film. However, this time they are discussing the love of his life, Agatha. Although Agatha is an Irish immigrant, she is seen with a birthmark on her face in the shape of Mexico, a visual signifier, especially to an American audience, that the immigrant couple was meant to be together. While unfolding his story to the writer, the film cross-cuts to Agatha and is seen in a close-up with soft lighting focus with warm circular lights revolving around her head to signify that she is the centre of Zero's world. Both of these soft-lit and warm scenes are later significantly contrasted towards the end of the film when Monsieur Gustave, Zero and Agatha are riding the train. They are stopped by the army and Gustave is taken outside and killed. This is the only black and white scene in the film. The colour is drained from the visuals to represent one of the darker days of Zero's life. There is also no background in the scene in order to illustrate the seriousness and shock of the section. Another point to discuss is staging and composition. A prime example of this can include how much space a person takes in the frame and how they are positioned. Near the beginning of the film, Zero is often framed in the background of shots on the edge, while Gustave is central and larger in the frame. This shows Zero's compliance and obedience to his boss, as Monsieur Gustave is the dominating subject of the frame. The Grand Budapest Hotel is the only film to have changed its aspect ratio in order to establish its four main time periods of the narrative, making it very unique in its own way. The film begins with the present day in a standard frame ratio. Furthermore, this is set in 1985, which was the modern standard of ratio as well as what we see today visually. The film is also shown in a 2.351 aspect ratio in 1968, a visual cue for CinemaScope. The majority of the film takes place in a modest 4:3 aspect ratio to set the audience way back to 1932. Compared to other Wes Anderson films, the storyline of Grand Budapest Hotel is quite complex and requires more attention from the viewer in order to follow. The imagery in Anderson's film is so aesthetically pleasing that it can occasionally distract from the story. In films such as Moonrise Kingdom, where the narrative is less complex, this isn't too much of an issue. However, in the case of the Grand Budapest Hotel, the viewer may find themselves so lost in the symmetry and rectilinear qualities of the film that they actually lose focus on the story. The importance of a complementing colour palette is crucial, as well as the symbolism of the pinks and purples in the cool pastel tones expressed throughout the film. A prime example of this can be seen when Zero and his young pastry chef wife, Agatha, fall into the back of the pastry truck surrounded by hundreds of pastry boxes. The soft pinks and blues of the boxes help to create a safe and comfortable atmosphere. It also draws attention to the loving, close relationship the characters share. Camera angles and mise-en-scène are used to great effect in the Grand Budapest Hotel to portray the hierarchy of character relationships and to add to the quirkiness and suggest that the film is not taking itself too seriously in the way that it meets the sensibility of the intended audience. This is visible in the opening scene, where the narrator is seen in a posh, professional-looking office, suggesting his position of power and stature. However, this is juxtaposed by the interruption of a child pretending to shoot him in a funny way. This shows quirkiness from the offset as the professional manner of the opening is broken down, laying the foundations for a more playful film. This is reflected throughout the film, namely the colour theme throughout the hotel with bright colours of yellow, pink and red, typical of Wes Anderson, adding to the unconventionality of the film. As well as humour and playfulness, camera angles are used from the off to suggest the importance of characters. This is displayed in the beginning of the film as the hotel owner, Mr. Mustafa, is introduced from afar as Zero tells the young writer about him, almost suggesting he is a strange man of little significance. In the following scene, however, as the young writer meets the hotel owner in the bathing room and starts to learn about his significance, the owner is slightly closer to the camera, suggesting that he has become more important to the narrator and the film. In the following scene, where the two have dinner together, the two are once again closer than the previous scene, and the hotel owner fills the shot more and more as dinner goes on until he dominates the shot, suggesting his significance and presence. Camera angles are also used to demonstrate the power and relationships between characters. This is demonstrated when on the run, in a phone box, Mr. Gustav is explaining something to Zero, and an over-shoulder shot of Zero suggests Mr. Gustav has more power in the relationship. This, along with the context of the situation, makes it clear to the audience that Mr. Gustav is in charge. However, as typical of Wes Anderson films, character relationships change. When hanging off the edge of the cliff, Mr. Gustav is saved by Zero, and the following scene portrays a close-up of the pair on a motorcycle, with Mr. Gustav desperately clinging on to Zero as he drives the motorcycle and dominates the shot. This suggests a coming of age for Zero. Furthermore, in that scene, the ironic drawn-on moustache that Zero has throughout the film disappears, showing that he is a character to be taken seriously. The characters in the Grand Budapest Hotel are certainly a topic for discussion. The author is the first character we meet. This is the author of the Grand Budapest Hotel. The film starts out with a girl reading the book about how he discovered the hotel. This then begins the story, allowing the film to develop. Mr. Gustav is without a doubt the most properly spoken man in the film. His style of speaking is extremely charming, showing the audience his character's personality in an amusing manner. This character has a lot of depth to him, as well as giving staff precise, straightforward orders, suggesting there is no messing about with him and he's quite a stern character. He also comes across as very, very caring. This is shown in the way that he treats guests, especially older women with blonde hair, and of course how he fathers Zero and develops a father-like son relationship with him. Zero is the Grand Budapest's lobby boy and Gustav's go-to guy. The fact that Gustav doesn't seem to notice Zero at first shows how little importance Zero has to Gustav at the beginning of the story. However, his character develops throughout the story as he becomes more mature and starts to know his way around the hotel. He becomes Gustav's good friend rather than just being seen as colleagues. Also, when we see Zero for the first time, it's obvious he has a desire to grow a moustache as he doesn't have one himself, where every other male in the film has one. We know this as we see him quite early on in the film drawing on his moustache. This could symbolise youthfulness, lack of experience. However, by the end of the film, we see that he has actually managed to grow one. This shows that throughout the film, he has matured from previous events. Agatha is Zero's girlfriend in the film. We see her working in the Mendel's bakery and going on dates with Zero. After this, she is not in the film too often and only appears a few more times throughout. But this would not stop us from saying that she is one of the main characters within the film, as she has a big role to play in Zero's life. Agatha is a very, very talented girl who helps Gustav escape from prison and steal the boy with the apple painting. Her character may be used as a tool to demonstrate Zero maturing as they become a successful couple. Zero comically tells Gustav not to flirt with her, again showing a change in the power of their relationship. The antagonist of the film is Dmitri, Madame D's son. Throughout the film, he is overpowered by greed, jealousy, and a hatred concerning Gustav due to his mother leaving a valuable and priceless painting to a hotel worker instead of her own son. His appearance supports this argument through the use of dark colours and attire, along with his actions including hiring Joplin, a hitman, to kill Gustav for the painting. Furthermore, the use of dark colours to signify that he is evil. To conclude, Anderson has significantly established an extensive range of techniques in his film, through the various camera angles to the carefully written and delivered characters that the Grand Budapest Hotel present, along with a sense of quirky stylisation that engages the audience in order to deliver the narrative.